Welcome to our breakout session on homeschooling through high school. Big topic for a lot of people, scary topic for a lot of people. And so our goal today is to remove the mystery and the fear from homeschooling during high school. My name is Judy. I'm the marketing sales coordinator for Sonlight Curriculum. I'm also a homeschool mom of 3 children who grew up and graduated and went to college and graduated, and now I have grandchildren who are coming to be of school age. So lots of reasons to be passionate about Sonlight. I'm going to have each one of these ladies introduce themselves. You've probably seen at least one or more of us if you in the past have attended any homeschool conventions, and we're hoping that next summer you'll be able to do that again and we'll be able to see you all in person. Jen, why don't you introduce yourself?
Thanks, Judy. Hi, I'm Jen. I have homeschooled 2 high school graduates with Sonlight. I have 2 more younger kids. And we have loved Sonlight through high school. I've worked in the booth for several years, so you may have seen me there, hopefully again next year.
And Christy.
Hi, I'm Christy, and this is our 12th year of using Sonlight, and we have 4 boys. And this is our oldest last year. He's graduating this year. I can't believe that. And I've enjoyed working in the booth and meeting maybe some of you before, and hope to see everyone back next season.
I'm Emmy Kim. I have homeschooled for the past 11 years. I have 3 girls, 18, 15, and 11, and my first high school graduate this year. I've served in the booth for the last several years, and so I'm excited to be able to chat a little bit about the homeschooling in high school through this webinar today.
All right, thank you, all of you. So let's start at the very beginning, and that would be, why would it be valuable to have literature-based studies, because Sonlight is a literature-based program. What's the value of having literature-based studies in high school?
Oh, I know. So instead of just names and dates and events and where the battle took place, the literature puts the history and even the science in so much context that the kids really get to make connections and form those, neurological pathways that make everything make sense, big picture, instead of just learning a bit of this and then forgetting it after the test, and a bit of that and forgetting it after the test. And we have been so pleased with the long-term knowledge base and the education my kids got in high school because of the literature-based curriculum that Sonlight offers.
Yes.
Thanks.
Yes, and I love the background, the perspectives that you hear with Sonlight. I think that's really important in our world today. As we can see, we need to be able to listen and hear other perspectives and think about them deeply and critically. I was talking to some moms this morning on our website, on our Sonlight Connections website, about how now that my son is in high school, we don't do the read alouds. He's busy. He has a busy schedule, but I do sticky notes in the books because I read them before him. I have to because they're so great. You don't have to, but knowing the material is good because there are so many things that it covers that you want to be able to, touch base with them on certain ideas. And so I put sticky notes. I include sticky notes to come and talk to me about this, or what do you think about this? Or, where do you see a source on this? I don't see him sourcing this idea, just to get him thinking critically about that author's perspectives, even the notes from Sonlight, discussing those and all the rich value that adds in. And then my perspective, I'd like to discuss with him as well. So that's hugely important, I think, for our world today.
I add one thing. I think that having great literature also builds their writing skills because they're exposed to such excellent writing from prolific authors that you can't help but become a better writer when you read that type of writing.
And vocabulary.
Yes,
Their
vocabulary.
Yeah.
Reading good writing does so much for their vocabulary.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. All very good points. And I'm going to add one more. The relationship that I was able to build with my high schoolers.
Mhm.
A lot of times you hear people say, oh, I've got a teenager. And all the drama and all the struggles that can potentially come with that. And I think that having time to have those discussions that you all have referenced really makes a huge difference in your relationship with your high schooler as well.
Mhm.
So speaking of high school, a lot, not all, but a lot of kids who complete high school then go on to college, and you're faced with that all important transcript. And for me, when I was taking my first homeschool student through high school, the word transcript just made me break out in a cold sweat. So talk to me about why you don't have to feel that way.
Can I just mention that the Sonlight College and Career Planning Kit is a great resource. It helps you to kind of figure out what to do to prepare for the college admissions process. It talks about scholarships and career choices and how to make your transcript really capture the attention of your school. So that's one great resource.
Mhm.
When we made our transcripts, we just kept a record of what they were, like what courses they were taking. And then I recorded grades, and I did grades by course contract. So we made a list of everything they were going to read, everything they were going to write, everything they needed to create or turn in for each course in high school. And then as they did them, I checked them off. And if you did, you know, it to 90%, you got an A. If you it went down from there. And so at the end there, we had this stack of work to look at and no question as to how much of it was mastered. And I think that doing it as you go along made the process seamless. It was more just like record keeping than transcript. And then when it came time to have to turn it into somebody, we just looked up, what does everybody else's transcript look like? Included all the relevant information. And it was very, very simple with a little bit of record keeping.
I agree. I would have to say that keeping a Word document, something very simple of your child's year and what they did, including non-academic type of subjects that you can include as a elective on your transcript, I think is helpful. There's also lots of online resources for looking at transcript templates that you can get for free. I know in the case of my daughter's school of choice that they actually offered a homeschool high school transcript template that I could just fill in, and that way I knew that it was presented in the way that they preferred to look at it.
Very nice. And that brings up a good point, Emmy. It doesn't hurt at all, especially as you move through the high school years. If your student begins to express preference for a school, start talking to them, call their admissions department, ask them, what are you looking for? When my child applies, what entrance exams, you know, do we need the SAT? Do we need the AC? What does my student need to do? And what do you want on their transcript? What information is important to you? And with just a little bit of footwork ahead of time, I think you can make it just as easy as Jen is saying it is. And she's right.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Well, what we learned from making those phone calls and talking to the admissions departments at 2 colleges was that they want it way more simple than homeschoolers tend to think in.
Yes.
We want to tell you exactly what we studied, and we want to
Yes.
say fancy things like 20th century world history, and they're
Yes.
like, world history, check, done.
Yes.
Like the
Yes.
language is so simple. What they
Yes.
want is so easy. They don't care what book it was. They
really
want
don't.
geometry.
And we've
And
learned that
agree.
a lot of the websites have a homeschool section on their admissions, in their admissions area on the website. So just as if, you know, as it lists states for advisors, or admissions counselors, or whatever they call them in different schools, there is an area for homeschoolers. And so you can get a lot of valuable information from the website, and naming courses, like Jen said, It's largely dependent on the graduation requirements, either from the college or from your area, your state, or whatever graduation requirements you have for your area, and your future plans. So if you know those, whether they're military or college or whatever those plans are, for an example, for history, they call it social studies in my area. That makes me think of elementary school whenever I see that, but that's what they call it in high school here. That's part of the requirement, 3 social studies requirements. And so we have to have world history, US history, and government and economics, and a semester of each of government and economics. Those are required. We do 4 because we love Sonlight, and we do an elective for our 4th year. But so it's not hard. It's basic, like Jen said, world history, US history, government and econ, and just basics.
Where in our state, that US history is actually required to be US and Virginia history. And so all the Virginia state colleges are looking for US and Virginia history. So I made sure that we covered Virginia in that year and called it US and Virginia history, just as an example of call it what will make sense to the people reading it and not necessarily, what is most descriptive to me.
And that's important because in my area, I said US and world, but ours has to be world history and geography. So they're looking for geography in each year, US history and geography. So many varying requirements.
The point to keep in mind is just what you've already said. That didn't mean that you had to go out and purchase a whole full year geography course and add that to your students' academic background. You just find ways to weave geography into your world history studies, which is very easy to do with a literature-based curriculum, and with Sonlight's markable map. And I mean, it's just not hard to do it all. So I think what I hear you saying, and I agree with each one of you, is that we really don't need to make this as difficult as it might seem, especially when you're taking your first student down that high school to college path. So what about assigning credits for courses? That always seemed a little mysterious to me. How did you guys assign credits to math or to your history or literature? Emmy?
For me, I just used a guide that I found online for assigning credits based on the number of hours approximately that my child used that curriculum or that did that course. And so if they were working on math, for example, Monday through Friday, 5 days a week for an hour a day, then they would get the full amount of credits, for that school year. If they were doing, let's say, guitar lessons 2 or 3 times a week, then that might be half a credit. And so I just kind of used that system to assign credits for each of their courses and electives.
Same here. We had some local requirements for the hours, a certain number of hours for full credit, half of that for a half credit. Some examples of half credits that we have done are health and wellness, government and economics, half a credit each. There was a visual arts course that we did that was half a credit, personal finance. Most of our credits are full credits, but there are a few that we have done.
In my state, driver's ed is a standard half a credit. So we included driver's ed as half a credit because, like Emmy said, we calculated by hours and it was half a credit worth of hours.
Mm-hmm. Keep in mind too that Sonlight has an amazing team of homeschool advisors, and so if you really are stuck on getting that transcript prepared for your student, feel free to go to sonlight.com/advisors and talk with one of them, because every one of them has graduated students from their homeschool, so they have this personal experience. So let's talk a little bit about students who don't necessarily take that college path and how maybe time management skills, training in time management skills is helpful for the student who is planning to go directly from high school into the military, or go directly from high school into a trade school, or maybe they've got a great job lined up that they've been working all through high school and they're going to continue on in that full time. So where does time management come in and how important is it? Christy?
I think it's important for all 4 years. It's been a focus for us for all 4 years because it takes all 4 years for this subject. It should be one of the most important high school subjects, I would say. And some excel at this more than others. So I would say a dedicated time twice a week has been important for us. A time to sit down. My guys have some outside classes that they do, and then some courses that we complete at home. And I have learned from other friends, this is pretty universal, so I don't feel bad. If it's happening at your home, it's happening elsewhere too, that the outside courses tend to get a lot of attention, and the ones that we do at home kind of think, oh, you know, there's this level of, oh, that can be done later in their minds. And so we need a dedicated time twice a week, and I have to stick to this in order for it to continue, for our discussion, to talk about pacing, to explain things, to check things, to talk deadlines for our Sonlight subjects that we're doing at home. It's hugely important. I have to be.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, Christy.
I was going to say I have to be a stickler about it, or it doesn't happen. So, go ahead, Emmy.
I just wanted to say that I think from our kids using the Sonlight IG, you know how the high school levels come with the student and then the parent guide. I think them having their own guide and their own schedule and being able to check that off as they go has been very critical for helping them to keep on track with their history and the tons of reading that they have to do in the high school years, and as well as giving them a beginning framework from, you know, if they know that they need 2 hours a day to read, then from there they know how much to spend on math and science and labs and whatever else that they're doing. So that's been helpful to us.
That's a very good point that you make, Emmy. One of the goals that Sonlight has for your high school students is independence, because you can't go to college with them. And so, nor do we want to. But one of the things that makes a difference with Sonlight's high school programs is that, as Emmy mentioned, there is a teacher's guide that is for you as the parent, so that you always know each week what your students' assignments are. Included in your parent guide are answers to all the discussion questions, extra notes and details that might help as you give guidance to your high school student. But then there's also a student's guide, and that student guide has the exact same schedule in it that yours does as the parent. And it has all of the discussion questions and all the activities and the assignments, but it doesn't have the answers that the parent guide has in it. So it really is a very valuable time and management tool to help your students begin pacing and planning and making sure that they get everything done. So one of the last questions that I can imagine that people probably have about homeschooling through high school is, what happens when we're done? And some of you have already talked about college. Did any of your students have difficulty getting into colleges or preparing to get into college?
No.
So,
my oldest got into both the colleges she applied to. They were state universities, and she was accepted at both of them. One of the things they really liked seeing on her transcript was that she had already done some community college credits, because according to the admissions office, the best predictor of future academic success is past academic success. So no, we had no issues with being homeschoolers.
Same here. We did not have any issues at all. They accepted the transcript without any questions asked, and they were just looking for certain scores and certain, you know, criteria more than how it looked or, you know, how it was formatted. So.
Excellent, good to know. And also, many students go directly from high school into the military. And I have a child who actually went to college and then from college went into the military and really had very few issues with getting in. It was more a matter of, much like what Emmy just said, making sure you had all the paperwork together that you needed. And that's really, at least in our case, where those time management skills and those organizational skills became very important. Getting in the military is exponentially more paperwork heavy than getting into college. And so there was a lot of that had to be done. And fortunately, that was not something that was terribly difficult for our child. And so, yes, military is absolutely an option for homeschooled high schoolers. And I know many, many families whose kids went directly from high school into the military without any difficulty at all. Well, we have covered a really, really big topic in a short amount of time, and hopefully we have touched on the most important details about making that homeschooling through high school decision. I would love for each one of you, please, to give me a little last minute tidbit of reassurance or encouragement to parents who are considering homeschooling their high schoolers. So Jem, why don't you start?
Homeschooling my high schoolers with Sonlight was not only very successful in terms of their academic status, but really fun. We learned a lot. We had a lot of inside jokes. We had a lot of book discussions. I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world.
Thank you, Chrissy.
It's not as intimidating as it seems in the beginning. And it is a time where you can explore interests more deeply. You can make it different for each of your children based on their interests in a really fun way. Okay.
I would just say you can do it because I know a lot of people say, well, I'm not good at math or I'm not good at science and how am I going to teach that? But you can actually find great curriculum that provides all of that for you, including automated grading in some cases and video instructions and solutions to every question. And so it's very doable to do in high school.
And based on what Emmy just said, when you're looking for those high school programs, and whether it's electives or whether it's math or lab sciences or history, Bible and literature, you can get a free Sonlight catalog just by going to sonlight.com/catalog. And we will be happy to mail you one, and you can read all about doing high school with Sonlight. So ladies, thank you. I have always thoroughly enjoyed working with you, and today was no different. I appreciate the wisdom and the tidbits that you were willing to share. Thanks so much.
Thank you.